Hello, I'm Mohammad Mamadov. Today I'll explain our last assignment from Web and Mobile 2 course. Well, for this assignment we have two applications, one from the server side, another from the client. So in my case it's Book App and Client App. Book App operates on localhost 8080 port while the client runs on 9090. There are some setup that we have to follow to successfully run this project. So here in the readme file I mentioned two ways. The recommended one is using Docker. However, you can also manually run those two separate applications from the integrated development environment such as IntelliJ IDEA. Actually it takes some time to show them step by step, but I already did them and I'll go over them. So starting with this one, I have empty folder demo. I clone my remote repository to that folder, and in this folder I have two applications. It contains my two applications, Book App and Client App. I first built the Book App application and then built its image. So I changed the directory to Book App, as you can see here. Then I run Gradle build. I built Book App, and then I built the image and give it the tag name of Book App for later use. Then I go back, I move to client and do the same for client. I Gradle build and also build the image for the container. And after all of them, I move back to the root folder that hosts my two applications, and I run this command, docker compose up build, and with this command my applications get run. That's about the setup. And there's one point I want to mention, that if you run it for the first time when your machine boots up, it's much better to have Docker desktop running in the background. You don't need to do anything here, just make sure that this app is opened up and run in the background. So otherwise there may be some kind of issues like this one. Let me show you. Yes, error during connect. It says that Docker daemon is not running. So this makes sure that after opening this, it's successfully built. Well, I would like to explain the details of the project according to the tasks. So the first one is about CRUD, performing validation using DTO. So let's begin with Book App, then we'll move on to Client App in this part. Sorry, I forgot to open this. I just closed. Then we'll continue with unit testing and integration testing, and this part is logging. So there is design pattern logging factory that I used, and this one is about another application. I also want to mention one point regarding the setup. If you try to run those two separate applications from the ID, you have to make sure that in the book service file in your client application, you have to change Book App to localhost, because it's Book App in client service, since Docker provides networking between those two applications. However, if you run them separately, this will not be the exact case. So this is my Book App. I already have my build folder because I just run it. So if you go here, we see our model. We have DTO, entity, and mapper. Well, for the DTO we have book, the properties, title, author, description, constructor. Taking these three, there is no need for ID, it's auto-generated. Similarly for DTO as well, I didn't mention ID, and I also added validations on DTO part, making sure that those fields are not blank and size requirements are satisfied. And here, instead of manual mapping, I used Mapstruct. So here is my book mapper interface. I have three methods: book DTO to book, book to book DTO, and book list to book DTO list. This is my repository. So repository is I use again H2 database as in the previous application, so you can actually see the properties here. Yeah, there's no password, you just enter the username SA and you can access the database in case you want to view it. And let's go to our service. We have service interface. Methods are getting all books, getting book by ID, creating, updating, and patching, or in other words, partially updating book, and last but not least, delete book. So in Impl, I handled all the business logic. For instance, we can see getting all books. I call the method book list to book DTO list from my mapper that I just showed to you here. Yeah, this method for getting all books. So I get book by ID. So I return it as DTO. In case there's no ID, I have custom exception book not found exception here. Yeah, it just goes back and gets the message. So create book also similar. So with mapper I convert the book DTO that user provided to book so that I can save it to repository. For updating book, I access the book with its ID, so I set title, author, and description to the updated book from the DTO from the user side. We have patch book here, so for patch there were some issues. It didn't went very smoothly as with the other one, so I had to handle the validation parts here as well, making sure that those fields are not empty. So I have extra method validate field, making sure that they're not null or they're not blank. And here is delete book, so it just takes the ID and deletes it from the database. In case the ID is not valid, it just gives the message that book is not found with this ID. So let me show you my controller here. Yeah. Here I have controller. So since this is a REST application, I use response entity, and I also set the status. For instance, for getting part it's okay, or for creating its HTTP status created. I pass valid to parameters because of Spring validation, and all other methods just follow the same convention. I showed it on the code. By the way, I also have initial data here, data initializer with command line runner, so I have few books added that you can see when you run up. So let me show them on the Postman as well. Well, for the Postman, so this is the client app that we're talking about. So port is 8080, so books, when I send get request, yeah, stats code 200, and here we get the list of books. I can also access book by ID like this. Yeah, so I can also add new book to the database. So I come to body part here. Yes, let's say title is team, author is let's say A, and description is D. So if I want to send post request, so it should add to the database. Yeah, so if I want to view all books, I'll see this book at the end. Yeah, it's here in this part. And in order to show you the validation, let's pass it just like this one, empty, and this is blank. And if I try to post, it says that title is required, author is required, which means that validation is successful. So we have put method, so we specify one book, and let's change title is stop, let's say author is Muallif, and I send request. Let's get all books here. So as you can see here, it changed the book stop Muallif, so which means that put request is successful. Validation here is also successful. So if I want to pass blank value, let's say, it says title is required as in the post. So we have patch, we can partially update the books. So let's remove author and try to update the first book. So it should say title cannot be null, empty, or blank. So this is the one that I manually handled in the service because patch didn't work according to the others. It's a bit different. So this means that validation is successful. We can say just title, yeah, and yeah, it's successful. Title Muallif D, and when we want to get all books, sorry, here I shouldn't write slash. Yes, here it reflects on the database, on the data actually. I can also remove book. So let's say I want to remove this book. So it was the first book. I just remove it. It shouldn't return anything, but we'll try to get this book. So as you can see, book not found with ID. So we can also view all books as well. And this book will not be there. Yeah, it's not there. So that basically was about the first task, DTO, performing CRUD operations, validation, mapping. And the second one is testing. So basically we have to write unit tests for service classes and integration tests for controller methods. So testing is here in this part. So let's start with unit tests. So we have to write unit tests for service methods, service classes. I have a bunch of tests: getting all books, getting book by ID book exists, getting book by ID book not exists. So the requirement was to make it as rich as possible, so therefore we have this many tests. So if you want to run them, they should pass. Let's see. So while we're waiting for that, let's go over to integration tests. Well, for integration tests, we have to write it for controller methods. So basically the ones that are related to CRUD operations: getting book by ID, getting all books, create book, update book, and delete book, also patch book. We'll also run them, but here we're waiting for unit tests. So let's not wait that much for that part. So let's move on to logging. So We have to make sure that we log the message before each method, during execution, and after each method, while showing the user-friendly message as well. So yeah, tests actually passed. We had 10 tests for service classes, service methods actually, and they all passed, so it's successful. So in the tests, I also tried to pass null values, empty values, to make sure that how durable the application is against them. So it went perfect. So let's also run our integration tests. So yeah, while it's running, let's go to logging. So actually I could do logging in two ways, but I tried to do it in with aspect, so it's much better. I just write in this file and it handles the logging just here, not getting mixed up between the methods. So here I mention the let's say package that I want to apply my logging. So I have log before, log after returning, and log after throwing. So this is in case there are some issues that we have exception. This one is the one that is mentioned in the instructions. So we enter method argument specified, or we exit method. This is for exceptions, and at the end I calculate time. I have start pointer here. I calculate execution time and show it on the logging part. Actually, we while we were creating testing those stuff, we actually it all counted to logging. So you can see it here. Logging executed method get all books in 21 milliseconds. So delete books, there's no argument, there's argument 1, this is the ID, it returns no results because it's null, and this is the execution time. Or get book ID, I pass the ID, it says that ID is not found to handle the exception. So let's try to add a book, post. So I add book, so let's see it in the logging part as well. So yeah, here I enter method create book, arguments title Muhammad D. So I exit method, this is the result, the book detail that's created, and here is the execution time, 60 milliseconds. So that's about the logging part. So yeah, I also had to show integration tests, so they also went successful. I had 6 integration tests and 10 unit tests. All of them passes successfully. So we discussed these 3 parts, and I actually explained bonus at the beginning. So these instructions are the reflection of how I did the bonus part with Docker, and you can consider this without bonus part. So but the recommended approach is this one, because for this one you also have to change one line of code in the client application as well. So by the way, let me open the client as well. So with Docker, I just want to show you here the Docker file before showing you another application. Yeah, so it's pretty the template kind of stuff. So I tried to find the snapshot in the build folder after Gradle built the project, so it should be here, libs. I write the name of the snapshot, I copy it, and here is my port number. And now let's move to client application. So for the client application, it says, yeah, here are the instructions. It says that it should kind of listen on different port but use the endpoints exposed by the first app, and direct and redirect the responses, and we also have to apply the logging for this application as well. So the logging here is in book app, so you can see the app of the name of the app here. So for the client, if you look at the source code, so we just need book detail. There is no need for a book, so it's basically the same stuff from the previous one. Here I have service and controller. Actually, I could also have done it without service, but I thought that there is a bit business logic, so it's not a good idea to stuff it in all controller. So yeah, I used REST template. Here I specify the URL. So since I use Docker here, because of the networking feature provided, it's book app. However, if I decide to run those applications separately, it would be book app. So I have methods get book by ID. I get for object. For create book, I post for object. So for update, I use put. There's one interesting point regarding patchbook. So actually, REST template does not support patchbook. Therefore, I have to manually handle it. So there was Apache client that I had to add the dependency of and try to handle it in that way. So it's in also config file as well. Yes, closable HTTP client. So because of that, I can handle the patching from the client side as well. So delete part is similar to the above ones, except for the fact that I use delete for delete method of REST template. So this is the service. So they just come to here controller for mapping stuff. So controller returns the response entities with status codes, but the methods are called from the service. Validation is also done on the client side as well, because it doesn't take the validation from the main application, so I had to do it here again. So in case if we have any exceptions, so they are handled in global exception handler, trying as much as possible to provide user-friendly message to the end user in terms of the error. And this is the logging part. Again, the same thing. The difference is the name of the package, so it's here client. So actually let's check this one as well. So here the port is 1990 and I have to write client before books. So if I try to send get request, I should be able to see the list of books, yeah, and also the changes that I made later. So this means that changes that are done there, so they are directly reflected here as well. So get request, so I can get by ID. I get, let's say, one book. Let's say I get 200 book, so it says requested book was not found 404, so user friendly message. So I can send post request as well, books. So let's copy this one again. Let's not write it manually, so I can send this post request. And let's check validation. Empty space, title is required. Let's do put on third book. Let's also check the validation here as well. Again, title is required. I can also change the book. So if I send request from the server side, you can see those changes here as well. So as you can see, I sent put request from client, and here when I sent a request from main application server side, so it's all fine. The changes are here as well. I have patch method, so this was an interesting one because it was a bit challenging. So let's say I do patching for the one with ID 4, and let's say partial update. This author is Ali. As you can see, it took the first book and partial updated it. So I didn't do nothing with description. So let's send the request to see the change. Yeah, Ali, a classic romance novel. So validation also works on the patch side. Let's say this is blank. There was an error with your request, invalid data or request. Yeah, because this cannot be empty. So patch also works. I forgot the quotation mark. And last one is delete. Let's delete the first book. Yeah, and when I look at it, one of them should be deleted. Yes, the one with the Ali was the first one, and it's deleted. So that was all regarding this application. I tried to explain only the important parts, but all of these instructions are followed, and all applications are done, and they are on the source code as well. Thank you for listening.